mean, Tshisekedi and the FRDC, they don't think about the well-being of the people. They don't think about the well-being of their soldiers. For them, it's a money thing. People like the Habyarimana family still play a big role in that movement, behind the screens. Like even Agat Habyarimana. Since the war started, M23 has been saying, we want to talk, we want to talk, we want to talk. The Kinshasa government always refused. The Rwandans do not want to balkanize Congo to get minerals out of Congo. I mean, they would prefer doing normal business with Congo at the border.
Hello there. My guest this week on the Longform podcast is Marc Hoogsteyns. Marc, a veteran Belgian journalist, is one of the very few Western journalists who have traveled to M23 Controlled territory and spoken to the rebels themselves. We discuss events on the ground, DRC's war strategy, and the likelihood of the regional peace process working, what the future holds for the peoples of the Eastern DRC. We recently hit 5,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for your incredible support. Whether you've tuned in to our episodes, engaged with us on social media, or sent thoughtful and encouraging messages, your contributions mean the world to me and the entire Longform family. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being part of this journey. Before this episode starts, I want to make a deal with you. About 85% of you who watch this podcast frequently haven't yet hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy what we do here, here's the deal I want to make with you. If you hit that subscribe button, I promise you that we will keep making the show better and better in every single way. I hope you choose to come along with us on this journey. Now let's get into the show. Mr. Marc, welcome to the Longform.
Thank you.
You know, I feel very honored because this is actually your third time to be a guest. I'm happy that you've not yet gotten tired of me picking at your brain, but I think that you have a very wide knowledge of the politics in our region, especially where it pertains to the DRC. You've been in the region for the last 25 years. You know a lot of the players, both in Rwanda and Congo, both in Congolese government as well as the rebels. So that's why I keep having you back. So thank you once again for agreeing to come on the show.
Thanks.
So let me go straight to the first question. I want to start with what's actually happening on the ground as we speak. Just last week, I'm sure you know, there was a gunman, Congolese gunman, who just rushed across the Rwandan-Congo border in Rubavu, stopped around the no man's land and started shooting into Rwanda. Luckily, no one was killed, but some of the houses, actually, you could see some of the houses near the border, there were bullet holes. Thankfully, like I said, no one was killed or injured. And then the gunman fled back into Goma and its confusion. Now, I've heard that the gunman was actually a Wazalendo militiaman who was, for those who don't know, Wazalendo is a militia that is made up of marijuana smoking people aligned with the government. They're being funded and armed by the DRC government. So from my sources on social media, it seemed that was actually one of those Wazalendo. They were the ones who did it. Is that also what you know?
Most probably yes, but then the question remains, on whose behalf did he act? And that we will never know, because he can He can have acted because effectively he had been smoking too much weed, too much ganja, or he had been drinking, or he got crazy, or maybe somebody paid him off and asked him to start shooting, towards Rwanda. That's also possible. So you never know. But that's not the main issue. The main issue is that thousands of weapons have been distributed, amongst civilians, semi-civilians, all kinds of militias, under this umbrella of, arming the Wazalendo to fight the M23, and also, according to them, against the Rwandans, because that's how they try to motivate them and give them some training so that they can fight. So the thing is that it's a symptom. To me, it's more a symptom. Why is it a symptom? It's a symptom of a town that is boiling over.
So, but you said something that I think that is really interesting, that you said that he could have either been high on some drugs or someone sent him to do that. Now, I understand the first part where he could have been intoxicated. Yeah. But then if what you're saying about the second part of him being sent by someone to do that, why would anyone send him to do that? What would be the game?
It's obvious. If you walk into Goma and you have, let's say you have $5,000 in your pocket, anyone could convince one of these Wazalendo, maybe while being drunk, to go to the border and start shooting over the border, and if you and maybe promise him $1,000 or $2,000 or maybe $3,000, so to provoke the Rwandan forces, because to shoot back and to create a bigger incident. Things can escalate really quickly.
And are you saying that there might be forces that are trying to, because there's obviously been, it's not the first time, even a few years, I think it was last year, someone actually crossed and entered Rwandan territory and then was killed. And a Congolese soldier was killed, and his body, when it was taken back, it was given a hero's burial. Yet, they found marijuana in his pocket. It was. I'm really interested in the idea that someone would want to start that with all the understandings of the ramifications of such an incident. What's in it for them?
This was a minor incident, but if you make it a little bit bigger, there's other examples. Like a couple of years ago, the FDLR fired mortars into Congo,
into Rwanda,
into Rwanda in Kinigi.
That's in 2019.
They touched actually the marketplace. We filmed that place. It was a really populated area. It was really right in the center of Kinigi. It was a really well-aimed shot. The other mortars came down near small farms just outside Kinigi. That was a provocation. And why was it the FDLR? Because if it's the FDLR, the Congolese government can always say, oh, that was not us. They want to create disorder, but at the same time, they don't want to take the responsibility to take that disorder. And they hope that, they can provoke more violence. That's it. Because the regime and the Congolese government, the Congolese authorities are at the end of the rope. Goma is completely encircled. The city is becoming like a boiling kettle of groups, people with weapons, people who are desperate, for their own security, people who are desperate to survive, and a lot of these guys have weapons now. So that makes the city very, very dangerous. There is lots of robberies. There is lots of killings in the city. I mean, there is lots of violence. I mean, I'm talking to people in Goma nearly every day.
Yeah.
You know, and even when you go to Gisenyi, you can meet people living in Goma or Rwandans going into Goma every day to work, and they will tell you the same thing. I think this incident with the guy who started shooting at Rwanda, it can be different. It can be several things, and the thing is, he will never know what really happened, because one reason or the other, you know, what that might have been the reason, they will always find another argument, you know, to explain it. So, but it's a really volatile situation. I mean, you have a very dangerous situation in Goma now that can explode.
What are the chances that you actually see an explosion? Because over the last couple of days, there've been, you know, different murders and robberies,
Yes.
and citizens are so frustrated. You have incidences of citizens, Goma residents, creating roadblocks
Yes.
in the city. Just the other day, I heard of a Congolese soldier who shot his commanding officer
Yes.
because he hadn't been paid for
Yes.
19 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you, because you've talked about a potential explosion. If things don't change, do you think this year can end without some kind of explosion in Goma?
I'm not. I'm not in a position to tell you that now, but I can only tell you that I worry a lot about this. I'm worried. I'm really worried because if you pull open the topic a little bit, you will see that the regime Kinshasa is at the end of the rope in the Kivus. I mean, Goma is encircled. They basically lost the war. Yeah. Tshisekedi has been able, you know, in the recent past to always to find some allies in abroad. Let's be the South Africans or maybe the Kenyans. He had mercenaries where he could count on. He's losing all that. Nobody wants to support him any longer because it's a dead end street. You know, I mean there is no, not, the situation is not getting better. And on the battlefield, he keeps losing. Yeah, he keeps stirring up violence at the battlefield because for him it's very easy. He can send Wazalendo and FDLR and some Burundian soldiers into the front line so that they will be shot by the M23. Because even if you talk to the people of M23 at the front line, they said, we don't like to shoot these people, you know, because it's so easy to shoot them. They come in groups. They attack us, we shoot them, we kill them. We don't like to do that. So, but they keep coming. So that's why it's not the FRDC that is fighting.
But what's driving, you think about what you've just said, it almost sounds like these people, these Wazalendos, these FDLR, these Burundians, they're almost like cannon fodder.
Yes.
But what, if I went into battle,
Yeah.
and I saw my people right, left, and center of me being shot right, left, and center, I would maybe not, I would refuse to go. But you're saying that they keep coming in waves. What is happening? What's driving that?
Look at what happened with the Burundian army and with the Imbonerakure that were sent to Congo. I mean, in Burundi, 300 of them were put in jail because they refused to go back. They know this. There's also a lot of these Wazalendo and probably also FDLR that think the same thing. They said, "Oh no, we will not go." But there are so many of them, yeah, and they promise them things like, "Okay, if you do this, we will give you that amount of money, or you will get this." So there is so many people that are carrying weapons that they will always find victims, you know. This is the whole thing. I mean, Tshisekedi and the FRDC, they don't think about the well-being of the people. They don't think about the well-being of their soldiers. They don't think about the security of their soldiers. For them, it's just a game, you know. They don't think in terms of well-being of of the people of Eastern Congo. Most of the politicians in Kinshasa, and this is the truth, whether it's Kabila or Tshisekedi or Bemba, they don't think in terms of, okay, Katanga. They think, oh, in Katanga we have this farm, we have that mine, we have this property, we have that property. Then, like Kabila might think, oh, in Masisi I have this big farm, I have a big villa in Goma, I have some interest in that or that coltan mine. That's how they think about it.
So they don't think about people; they think about properties.
Property, for them, it's a money thing. It's really a money thing, and for Tshisekedi is also Tshisekedi is a guy that he hasn't basically been to school. He hasn't studied a lot. He's surrounded by people that inform him, that influence him to do certain things or not to do certain things. Tshisekedi is not sure of himself. He doesn't like to lose face. Yeah. He also knows that, for instance, when Goma will fall, he'll probably will have to go too, because he won't be able to justify his actions anymore in Kinshasa. He has a lot of opposition also in Kinshasa, political opposition. He even has opposition in his own political party. Yes. So the guy is under fire, politically and militarily. So he's at the end of the rope. And when you get that example of that guy that was sent to the border, or not sent to the border, or that went to the border and started shooting over the border, that's a small example. But I think that at the end of the day, when people like Tshisekedi feel that they're going to lose everything, they will get really dangerous. Because then they can provoke a bigger border conflict. And in order to turn the whole thing into a regional conflict, yeah, and also if you talk about FDLR, this is going to be nearly their only way out.
To start a regional conflict?
Yes. Because right now, I mean, the Rwandan government is insisting on disarming the FDLR, about neutralizing the FDLR. Okay, they know in advance that they will not be able to disarm the whole FDLR, because it will be impossible to separate the FDLR from the FRDC. They're all wearing the same uniforms. But if they would start, arresting the leaders and the officers, that would already be something, yeah. So in order to avoid that, yeah, the FDLR also has to make the conflict bigger. So that and then the international community would have to step in and say, stop everybody, now we have to talk, yeah. Because these negotiations in Rwanda and Nairobi, everything, okay, it's good to negotiate. M23 right now is in Rwanda to talk with the Angolan facilitator, yeah. But not a lot of people believe in a positive outcome of these negotiations.
So you said something about Goma. You've reported, I know that you've reported from M23 controlled areas, yeah. And you also have spoken directly to their leaders, to the leadership.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I've noticed this time, unlike in 2012, the M23 has refused to finally take over Goma.
Yes.
But you've also talked about, Goma as a city that's just about to erupt.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the state of Goma, just how dangerous it is if it was to collapse.
Yeah.
With all the arms, with all the people, with all the... It would make sense if the M23 decided that, you know what, we cannot let anarchy, this anarchy happen.
Yes.
That's what I would think. But when you speak to your sources over there, or kind of read the tea leaves, do you think that M23 might change its mind and actually go and do something about Goma? If this confusion continues,
they will have to do it. If Kabila Tshisekedi doesn't come by and wants to talk, that's where we're going. I mean, because otherwise, you can't have the standoff and the deadlock as it is now continue too long. That's not good for everybody. I mean, it provides Tshisekedi with the opportunity to redress his troops, to find more, cannon fodder to stage the coming attacks, to beef up his army, to reinforce his position. That's what they're doing now, by the way, in and around Kanyabayonga. We also hear that they're building up forces in Sake. Yeah, so there is probably going to be a new offensive, and then the offensive, everybody already knows the outcome. It will be pushed back by M23 because, of course, M23 knows this is in preparation. They know they're coming. They also have the strategy to stop that. So and they will push them back. So where does that bring you if that is happening on and on and on, and it keeps on happening? That's also an impossible situation. In the meanwhile, I wrote an article about this day before yesterday, about where are we going to, what's going to happen, how could we solve this problem? Exactly the same questions as you ask me now. So, well, I don't know, but if you want to talk, like the Rwandans really said openly, we want to talk. We want these negotiations to go on, and we also want the Congolese government to talk with M23.
Yes.
If that's not possible, they keep on attacking. And then there's other signs. I don't know whether you followed, but Tshisekedi just recently received a delegation from Europe of Hutu radicals.
Who are those people?
Jean-Luc Habyarimana.
You mean the son of the former Rwandan president, Juvenal Habyarimana?
Yes. Who came officially, the reason was to Kinshasa to calm down a couple of big shot FDLR who one way or the other are anyway in jail in Kinshasa, because they were scared that they would be handed over to the Rwandans, since Rwanda insisted now that FDLR should be neutralized. So he came to calm down the spirits of the FDLR, and to talk with them. But he also talked to Congolese officials. And I don't know whether it's true, but I hear he went back to Europe.
Mark, can I just interrupt you very quickly? So and then after that you can continue. How did you find out that he came? And when did he actually go to Jean-Luc Habyarimana? When did he go to Kinshasa?
He went a couple of weeks ago, just after the Rwandans. There was negotiations in Rwanda where it was decided that the Rwandans were insisting that the FDLR should be disarmed, neutralized, and there was also talk of setting up a tripartite, kind of organ that would control the disarmament, etc., of the FDLR. Yeah, that was the first step. Then the second thing was, and then there was a second negotiation where the Congolese came up with again with the argument that the M23 was a Rwandan proxy group, and that they would have to withdraw first. I think that came up too, and then the Rwandans put on another condition. They said, okay, now you first have to talk to M23 to solve the problem, because M23 is not Rwandan, of course not. It's a Congolese group. It's a Congolese organization. So, and it stopped there. But in the meanwhile, this guy came to Kinshasa, yeah, and he talked to officials. I even think that he talked to Tshisekedi's brother, he's like the maître d'orchestre of local politics in Kinshasa. He's Tshisekedi's right hand. And I also hear that he talked to, this is what some of my colleagues in Kinshasa have been telling me off the record, he has been talking to Muyaya.
That's the Congolese minister
And
of
I hear that in the
communications.
circles of, Hutu opposition in Europe, that there is new money circulating. So where's that money come from? It's most probably from the Congolese, because they're very useful, these groups like the Jumbo, to make propaganda, against Rwanda, to diabolize and to criticize Rwanda for what's going on in Congo. It's mainly coming from there. You understand? Yep. So how can you talk about peace? Neutralizing the FDLR and talking to the Rwandans and to whoever that, okay, maybe we want to disarm the FDLR. When you incorporate the FDLR into your own army and you start giving money and support and aid to the political wing of the FDLR in Europe.
No, I think you've told me something that I hadn't been aware of, which is I had obviously heard of different political leaders of these extremist groups, but I did not know that the former president's son was now taking up that space or it's almost like he's taking up leadership. Yes. Political leadership of the FDLR movement.
That I don't know.
But it seems like that if he's going out
but I know that
speaking on behalf...
from my own information and from what people are telling me and my own contacts in Europe, that people like the Habyarimana family still play a big role in that movement behind the screens. Like even Agathe Habyarimana.
Still?
Yes. Even, Jean-Luc, I heard that he was really active too. There was a couple of others who are also, related to former genocidaires. There is even others who don't have this link with genocidaires, but who are really radical too. So, and there has been a boost in their activities since the war in Congo picked up again.
I was going to ask you, so right now you've kind of almost given us an overview of what's happening in that area. But I would like to kind of know with a bit more detail the state of the conflict between M23 and the DRC government. I know that right now there's supposed to be some kind of ceasefire between the different belligerents, the opposing forces. Yeah. Has that ceasefire held? I would like to know, the South Africans, the South African troops, the SADC troops came in, speaking a big game and with big guns and all that. I've not heard much from the South Africans since. The Burundians, you keep hearing a lot about them. I think the last time I heard much about them was, as you mentioned, was when some Burundian soldiers were captured. I think it might have been you who did a story and broke the news that that these Burundian soldiers were not even wearing Burundian uniform. They were wearing DRC uniforms. So there's also the Burundians. Then you have the European mercenaries. Are they still there? Are they becoming more? Are they becoming less? Are we seeing? Have they remained the usual Romanians, or are we starting to see different types? And of course, there's FDLR, and how they are involved in the army, the DRC army. So there's all that confusion. Is there any way that you kind of help us understand what is happening with all these different forces?
Okay, so these different, except for the FDLR and the Burundian army, which are, let's say, outsider forces, right? SAD, the South African Defense Force, SADC, and the mercenaries are not involved directly in the fighting. So they have more like they train people, they advise people how to shoot the cannons. They will be there as advisors, but they're not involved in the fighting itself. Now, SADC came in with an active combat role. They didn't do that because very, very fast they understood that if they would do it, a lot of them would go back in body bags to South Africa. That was a certainty. So they were warned. So they didn't, and there was also a lot of, don't forget that there was opposition in South Africa itself against the fact that the government sent these troops. So not everybody agreed with that in South Africa. So on that level, also the South African government was walking on rather thin ice. So they didn't risk themselves too much to get into trouble.
Yes.
And it's even going down because I hear that the motivation to stay there is descending. They're not getting stronger. Maybe they have also they got some reinforcements, but they're not motivated to fight. And they know that if they fight, it will cost them dearly. The M23 told them. Like they did with the Burundians, I'm really sorry to say. There was lots of Burundians killed in Masisi.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. So they got so scared. Nowadays, you will see not so much Burundians at the front line. They also have the tendency of wanting to stay behind. So the only thing they have to fight FIDC is FDLR and Wazalendo to really fight. So you heard some even the FDLR M23 is also saying, okay, these mercenaries, they have their role is to assist and to train, yeah. But actually, some of them also have an active combat role. Somebody is pulling the rope of a big gun, 122 millimeter, yeah, is also fighting. So then they become, and that is something that is less legal and acceptable for the international community than if they would just train and supervise the FIDC. So I also think that these mercenaries understand that it's also very dangerous for them to get more involved.
Because they might die as well.
Yeah. They might die as well, and this will cut their motivation. And I also hear that there were some problems with payments. I have these sources I have in Goma, they tell me this. Even people who are working with these mercenaries, they tell me this, that sometimes when they're due for payment, that, even when there is a delay of 2-3 days, these mercenaries, they start complaining. They're there for the money.
Yeah.
They're not there to die, So that's it. So where do I see the rest of the military situation? I think it's a standoff. It's a standoff in the sense that Goma is completely surrounded. M23 has been able to build up their strength in the areas where they control. Okay, there were some incidents because the ceasefire was violated a couple of times inside that thing, but that was mainly Wazalendo attacking. So and then they had to be stopped. That had to be stopped. So, but yeah, not so much. And the fact that FIDC largely respected the ceasefire is also it also shows that people around Tshisekedi are trying to convince him to cool down, because it's literally 2 minutes to 12. If now there is going to be a big offensive and they're going to attack M23, if M23 will hit back, that could lead to the collapse of Goma.
Because I'm also seeing that...
and if Goma collapses and if Goma falls, I mean, military, they can take Goma in 2-3 days. That's what I hear on different sources. Because it's not so difficult. I mean, the chaos will... If there is chaos and M23 will march on Goma, first thing that will happen is that all these groups will try to flee. FIDC is going to try to flee. I don't know how they're going to do that. You know, if M23 is smart, they leave a road open for them to flee. So the FDLR is going to flee. Maybe part of the Wazalendo are going to flee. So the city will be defenseless.
Do you think that other than... Because what we had seen the last couple of months was that M23 was moving north.
Yes.
So they were getting closer and closer to the Ituri region. They were getting close to Butembo town.
Yeah.
Do you... And obviously the president of the AFC,
yeah,
Corneille Nangaa, was talking about, you know, we're going to march up to the capital.
Yeah, but
do you see that happening?
This is, I mean, don't. I don't want to talk about this because, you know, what marching on Kinshasa. I was with IFDL. I followed that war from 1 year before it started to 2 years after it stopped. I know really exactly walking on Kinshasa is walking on Kinshasa. You need logistics. You need international support. If they would do that, they would need the support of the Rwandans, probably also the Ugandans. I mean, that's not realistic. I think this is just arguments they're pumping up to make people in Kinshasa worry. Because if they talk like that, the M23 of AFC, they're talking in the same way as Kinshasa politicians. That's just to scare off the other guys. Even walking to Kisangani or Beni, it's not realistic, I think. I'm a journalist. This is also why it's not so easy to talk to them, because if you ask questions about this to these people, they are offended. You understand? You know what I mean?
Tell me more. What do you mean?
Yeah, they're offended. I mean, they don't like, you know, even when they started saying, okay, we're going to walk on Kinshasa, I said, hey, bueno, you know, how are you going to do that? Yeah. I was laughing. Yeah. You understand? It's the whole concept that, you know, didn't make sense.
But the Goma is a bit more possible.
Goma is possible.
So other than Goma, how about Bukavu? Is Bukavu also in play?
I mean, if they take Goma on the long run, and if there would be a lasting solution, basically also they have to control Bukavu, I think. But Goma would be, for them, a good start. Yeah.
Do you think it would be a smart geopolitical move?
That I don't know. I'm not a politician. But, you know, on the other hand, Sanny, if you're trying to talk to somebody about peace. If you have this already in your mind for 2 years, since the war started, M23 has been saying, we want to talk, we want to talk, we want to talk. The Kinshasa government always refused. They keep on refusing. They are losing the war. Yeah? And they keep on refusing to talk. So at the end of the day, these people will have to take things into their own hands. In what form, in what way, that's up to them. I talked to a lot of people recently, and often I talked to an American guy who also visited the M23 recently. He's a good friend of mine. He came up with this Iraqi Kurdish idea. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Iraqi Kurdish. And just to be honest with you, I've been living and working with the Kurds for 3 years.
If I can. So that's actually something that I wanted to ask about. So at the moment, there are two peace processes that are happening. The Rwanda process that is between Angola as the mediator and Rwanda and the DRC, as well as what was supposed to be, which was the Nairobi process that was supposed to be between the government and all the other armed groups. The government of the DRC and with Uhuru Kenyatta as the mediator. I want you to help us have a better understanding of, one, how are things going so far on those two processes. You've given us a bit of information about what is happening in Rwanda, not so much about what's happening in the Nairobi process. And secondly, obviously there are other international players in this. I'm seeing the Americans speak quite a lot.
It's all interconnected.
I'm seeing the Europeans now speaking more. I'm seeing the Belgians getting involved. Can you help us have a better understanding of all that confusion?
I'm going to summarize, and I'm going to summarize a little bit. Maybe I will make some mistakes, but for people to understand it. Until recently, in this conflict, the M23 and also the Rwandans were the big devils in this conflict. People are starting to see now that this is not the case. Yeah, people are starting to see that the main reason why this conflict is taking so long to be solved or cannot be solved is the refusal of Kinshasa to negotiate. Because the cause of the M23 is really simple, really. That they want peace. They want these Hutu extremists to go back to Rwanda and to be neutralized, and they want to bring their refugees back. And after the refugees come back, they want to be sure that they will be safe. Yeah, this is in big lines in what they want. This is what they are fighting for. Yeah. So for the Americans, who in the beginning, like last year, when you talk to them, they didn't understand really what was going on. For them, it was really simple. And it was, okay, in 2013, we put pressure on Rwanda to drop their support to the M23. The M23 went to Uganda or came to Rwanda, was locked up in a couple of camps, and that was it. And, things could continue the way they were going. This is what they were thinking. They didn't think any further than that. That if we say that, this will have to happen. But now we're in a completely different situation.
What has changed?
The M23 and the community of Bagogwe, they're making their last stand. They know that if they withdraw now, and if they comply to what the Americans want, they will be finished forever. Yeah, you have to know, and this is really true what I say, that in this region, in North Kivu, and I'm talking only about the Petit Nord. There was the Big Nord, which is Butembo, Beni, etc., Ituri, And then there was Petit Nord, which I call the region between, around Goma, Nyiragongo, Ruchuru, up to Rwanda, and that region, the region they occupy now. This is the Petit Nord. Where was I? They have this under their control. They will not withdraw. In that region, there were like in 1990, like more than 200,000. I'm going to say something that I don't like to say. The Tutsis living there, Congolese origin. For instance, the family of my wife. Yeah. They were originating from Jomba. Yeah. They were part of a clan of Bagogo called the Bahai. Yeah. So they were living in that area. So they've always been living there. Yeah. You know also that in '95, another batch of people from Rwanda was added to that, who fled the first violence here. So that makes that population of more than 200,000 people. Of that population, over the years, only 10,000, 15,000 remain now, civilians. Yes. The rest are in camps in Rwanda and Uganda, or were shipped by the international community, OEM, to different foreign countries with the intention to solve the problem by shipping these people out. It's a true story. I mean, Michael Rubin wrote that. Yes. But I told him, I said, this is the truth. He said, what? And then he looked into it, and it's the truth. Thousands of people were sent to Australia, America, and to Canada, some of them to Europe, with money from the international community. And if you talk to people of OEM, which we did like already 10 years ago, this was going on, I said, why you do that? They said, but this is the only, there was some Muzungu stuff from OEM told me this is the only possible way to solve this problem, to get these people out, because there will never be a solution. Which I didn't agree with him, of course. So now we're in the situation now that this is the last chance these guerrilla fighters of M23 they have to bring their families back.
Or to become a people without a home.
Yes, or become homeless, or become, stateless, or be forced to become Rwandan nationals or Ugandan nationals or American nationals or whatever. And what you see now, that there is this big solidarity in that group of people who left to live, they went to the States and went to Canada. They're all supporting the M23. They're sending money, they're sending this. There was this big solidarity. And also, I think the public opinion in Rwanda is pro-M23. Because if you allow now to drop your guard in the Kivus, and M23 moves out and goes back into cantonment, or how you call that? Cantonment, yes. Yeah. Then Rwanda will be defenseless for infiltrations from Congo, out of Congo. I mean, they're never going to allow this, even in peace deals, possible peace deals that might come out. Everybody knows and everybody thinks that the Congolese will never respect it. So if there is a peace deal, or if there is a deal, M23 will always insist on having their own military protection in the zone. And that will be a hot potato to discuss. So it's a very complex situation. So
you've talked about the why M23 is fighting, and the fact that 2024 is not 2013. It's a totally different type of M23. It's a totally different type of threat. I think they realize that it's either fighting or death. Now
it's take it or leave it. So, if you don't do it their way, they can go the highway. That's the mentality behind it.
So let's talk about peace, because I think all of us, whether it's M23, Rwanda, and even Congo, if they were to be honest, they do not want the final battle to happen. They do not want to push it to that space where there's nothing else to do but a fight to the death. But so there's a peace process that is taking place right now. How much confidence do you have that some kind of peace, because maybe the perfect peace will be impossible. As you said, FDLR is well integrated into the Congolese army. They're well integrated into the community. In fact, I am aware that even Congolese nationals have joined the FDLR.
Yeah.
So it's not it's become something else.
Yeah.
But obviously Rwanda has said that what we want is the FDLR disarmed and sent back to Rwanda. DRC obviously wants, says that, Rwanda needs to take out the troops that are in the defensive, what we call the defensive posture. M23 wants its issues resolved as well. So there are all those issues, and everyone is talking. What are the chances that all the three parties come to some sort of peace deal that satisfies everyone?
I don't know, but in all these years that I've been covering this problem, I've become so skeptical. I mean, I've seen already other peace deals, going up into smoke. I mean, when the UN was so-called, was chasing out Makenga from Goma in 2013, I was also there, and there was this really funny German guy who was leading the UN operation. His name was Kobler. And I had breakfast with him in Goma in a hotel. And he didn't know me. And then he was talking on the table and said, yes, and now we're going to chase out M23, blah, blah, blah. I was sitting there. I was already talking with M23 in the morning over the phone. And he said, we're going to withdraw because it's useless getting shot at, by South African helicopters and everything. We're going to withdraw. And also, then after we talk and then we make a deal, and then there will be peace. Okay, this is the only way we can do. So they didn't really fight. And then Kobler was sitting there, and we will beat them. And then after that, we're going to disarm the FDLR. And I said, I'm sorry, sir. Maybe I don't want to interrupt you, but I do not agree with you. I said, I'm pretty sure you're not going to disarm the FDLR, because that for the Congolese government, that's not an issue. They can say that, but they will come back on it. No, we're going to do it, So all these deals that were made in the past, were never respected. So what do you expect M23 to do now? To believe in a new deal that will be disrespected by the Congolese government in 2 or 3 or 4 years?
So what is the
There is no trust in that. And even if they're going to trust it, or they will have to trust, because I think still that the negotiations are one of the only ways out, they will have to put their claims forward, and they have to stick to that to be sure that they can control the situation themselves if the deals are not respected.
So you were talking earlier about a Kurdish solution. Now, for not everyone understands what that
Yes,
means.
I can explain.
Yeah, let me see if I can do it a bit quickly. So obviously, after the fall of Saddam Hussein,
Yes,
Iraq was made up of different groups. So you had the Sunnis, the
Shiites.
Shiites, and the Kurdish,
Yes.
the Kurdish people
Yes.
in the northern part of Iraq.
Iraq.
So there was a Kurdish, almost a Kurdish separatist movement.
Yeah, seven. Yeah.
And what they did, they had arms, so they were there to protect their people against ISIS, against Al Qaeda.
Yes, yes.
And what happened today was that it seems that instead of breaking up Iraq into 3 areas, they allowed the Kurdish people to continue guarding their own people.
No, this is not what really happened. There is a little nuance. The Kurdish imposed that on them. You understand?
It wasn't a deal.
No, now it's finito. You know, we're going to take things in our own hands. And then once they had taken things in their own hands and set up their own administration with their own Peshmerga army, which is Kurdish, fighters, they put one step back.
And they did not declare independence.
No, and they said, okay, we leave the door open to Baghdad. We will not split from Iraq. So basically, they agreed on running their own stuff in a semi-autonomous way.
Okay.
So they didn't break up with Iraq completely. So this is what a lot of people also think that should happen in the Kivu, because these Kurds, they have their own army. There is no Iraqi army in Kurdistan, or very few, maybe a couple of officers, I don't know. There is no Iraqi governor in Erbil, the capital of Kurdistan, because they run it themselves, So it's working relatively well. It's not, because there's also corruption is coming up. I mean, there's some things like that. And to be sorry, I used to work and used to live with these rebels, Kurdish rebels, for 3 years in the past, in Iraq and in Iran. That was my post. I was correspondent there. So I walked with them. I went with them in the war, and I saw how they are. They're really motivated people, but then at the end, especially in the war against ISIS, because they got a lot of support of the Americans. They did most of the fighting, also in Syria. So these people have also been lied to a lot of times, just like the people in Masisi. They have been promised things, if you do this, we will help you with that. But then these promises were never kept. Like with M23, they were promised things, but, it always came back to them. So that's why they decided, okay, now we are going to take things in our own hands. And then being realistic, you say, okay, if we go too far, that might turn against us as well. So we put one step back, we leave the door open.
So obviously that's really interesting, because right now the Muyaya group, that those loud DRC politicians, they keep talking about the threat of balkanization and
it's not balkanization.
Yes, what I'm saying is that what you've brought up is a different kind of, it's almost like a federal system, where each region has its politicians, its security services. It might actually be a way of guaranteeing the security of all the returnees, because obviously what we've seen is that the Congolese army cannot be trusted with the Kinyarwanda-speaking community. We've seen that the police forces are corrupt, and they're just vile people. We've seen instances of cannibalism from those Wazalendo, and they burn people with, I guess, Tutsi-looking faces and eating them alive. So it would be an interesting, I think the Kurdish model might be interesting. And you might actually be onto something, because I saw, you know, when you're talking about Kurdistan and how they're managing their affairs, I was seeing members of the M23 building some of the bridges that had been destroyed. They're making sure that children are in school, their clinics. I'm seeing that there's even a lot of, political cadres being taught, not even the armies, but even from the, I guess, who might be running the administration in the future. So what you've said, which is the Kurdish model, might actually be something that might work. But as you've said, it has to be imposed, because the
and
DRC
imposed to the international community, just like the Kurdish did. Because the Kurdish didn't trust the UN either, or the Americans, or the English.
They did it themselves.
Yes, because the Americans wanted to turn on them. They had been fighting against ISIS, and the Americans said, okay, the war is finished. We stop supporting the Kurds.
Yes.
They said, no, not with us, you know. So they didn't accept that. So, and it might be an example. And I didn't write that article to say, okay, it has to be like that. Who am I to tell people what to do or not to do? But it's a thing. It's a possibility. And the logic of the thing is easy. See, if you don't get support from the international community to solve the problem, if the international community on itself cannot be a guarantee that peace can be maintained, because why should they trust the UN?
Actually, the UN is even firing against them, the MONUSCO.
Yeah, MONUSCO. I mean, look at what, especially even in Rwanda, I mean, there was not a lot of respect for the institution of the UN, given the fact what happened here in Rwanda. Yeah. So, I mean, they don't trust it. So that you hear more and more people say, okay, we have to do this ourselves.
So all of this that is happening.
And they are Congolese. They don't want to split up with Congo. But if you reach out your hand and you want to talk, and the guy at the other side of the table doesn't want to shake your hand, and instead of talking, he wants to kick you. So okay, you can kick back, but at the end of the day, the fight has to stop somewhere. And if the international community doesn't want to understand that a man like Tshisekedi, who doesn't want to negotiate, is really the cause of the blocks the whole situation, then you have to take the situation into your own hand. That's logic.
So this is my last question to you for today. Everything that you've said, where does that leave Rwanda and its security concerns?
For Rwanda, it's an itchy thing. I mean, the Rwandans want to develop. The Rwandans want to see their country progress. The Rwandans think in terms of development. The Rwandans do not want war. The Rwandans do not want to balkanize Congo to get minerals out of Congo. I mean, they would prefer doing normal business with Congo at the border, buying minerals and buying vegetables and selling vegetables and pay taxes for it, import, export, and do business like that. They don't want that. But for one or the other reason, people are continue to diabolize them. And also, whether they are not there or not in Congo, I mean, they have the right to defend themselves, and they have the right to anticipate the moves of their enemies. You understand what I mean? So I think the Rwandans, and that's also the reason why they insist now on negotiating. They want to negotiate. They're fed up with this situation. They want it to finish.
Can it be finished?
Yeah, that's the other question that you should ask them. You know, maybe people think, you know, I'm wrong. I don't know. You know, maybe people think I'm right, but I'm you know, after 30 years in the region, I've become really skeptical. Yeah. You have seen so much violence here with them, and the only positive thing that you see is now the development of this country, and that's what you have to hang yourself onto, just to continue. Yeah.
Marc.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me on the long form. If you enjoyed the conversation today, share your thoughts with us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.